Heyo! Last time we made a throw pillow, so what better project to accompany our brand new, made-from-scratch pillow than a removable, zippered pillowcase? I talked a little about fabric in the previous tutorial, but I will reiterate here that almost any fabric can make a great pillow. There are a lot of fancy pants home deck fabrics like velvet and satin and silk, or if you want something snuggly, there's minky and fleece. If you want to get really crazy, you could make a pillow out of faux fur. You could also keep things simple and go with cotton or canvas, especially if you plan on embellishing with embroidery or applique or beadwork, which is another way to give your pillow some zazz. The materials for this tutorial are pretty simple. You really just need your fabric and a zipper. And of course the pillow that goes inside the case, but that's kind of obvious, right? Just like you can make a pillow any size, you can make a case any size too, and you will use the same dimensions from the pillow for the case. Since my pillow insert from last time is 18 inches by 18 inches, after adding seam allowances, I need two 19-inch squares of my fabric. Your zipper should be about 3 to 5 inches shorter than the size of the square. In this case, I'm using a 14-inch zipper. When in doubt, get a longer zipper than you need, since you can always cut it shorter. Before assembling the pillow, make note of whether or not your fabric has a tendency to fray like a mofo. Mine does, so I decided to stitch the edges to put a stop to that nonsense. You can do this by serging or zigzagging along the raw edge. This step is not an absolute necessity, but it will make the case more durable, especially when it comes to washing. Behold my two pillow squares aligned right sides together. Pin along the bottom edge. My fabric design does not necessarily have a bottom, so I just picked a side, but if your fabric print or pattern is directional, you will want to pay attention to that. Baste the bottom edges of the two pillow pieces together, leaving ½ inch at each corner unsewn. Backstitch at each end of the basting. Tip: basting means to use a longer stitch length than you usually would when sewing. Usually basting will be removed later, and the longer stitches are both easier to remove and they put less holes in your fabric. Now we will press the seam open with an iron. Pin or glue stick the right side of the zipper to the wrong side of the pressed seam. And yes, if you've never watched my videos before, I did say glue stick. It is a great way to attach a zipper for sewing. Try to center the teeth of the zipper along the seam line as best you can. If you are using the glue stick method, press the zipper in place and then wait 10 to 20 minutes for the glue to dry before stitching. Mark the ends of the zipper teeth. We will be stitching the zipper from the right side of the pillow. Marking the ends ensures we won't inadvertently stitch through the teeth, which would be bad. Transfer the pins to the right side of the fabric. Using a zipper foot, top stitch around the entire perimeter of the zipper. I like to start at one of the short ends of the zipper. It doesn't really matter which, so I find one of my pins and I start there. Backstitch a few times, and then, with the needle in a down position, pivot the fabric and begin stitching up the long side of the zipper. To get even top stitching around the zipper, try to keep that seam line the same distance from the edge of the foot the whole time you're sewing. When we get to the other pin, marking the end of the zipper teeth, we again put the needle down, lift the foot up, and pivot. Ideally, I should have backstitched this short end again, but I forgot, and I had to go back and do it once I finished the zipper, so don't be like me. Again, we will sew down the long edge of the zipper, back to where we started. And then we backstitch again. Here's the zipper stitching from the wrong side. Looks pretty wonky, but that's okay, because it looks great from the right side. And just to reiterate, you want to make sure there's back stitching at each end of the zipper. This will keep the basting stitches from earlier in place. Now we'll use a seam ripper to remove the basting stitches, but only inside the rectangle of the zipper top stitching. Starting just inside the back stitching we did at each end, start removing the basting stitches. I prefer to do this fairly slowly. I've gotten a little too hasty with the seam ripper and ended up ripping right through the fabric of a project more times than I can count, so I've learned to be patient with this step. When you reach the other end of the zipper top stitching, stop. Alright, this is an unexpectedly important part of this tutorial. Find the pull of the exposed zipper and unzip the zipper. I'm going to say that again. Unzip the zipper before you sew the rest of the pillow. Trust me on this, it's a real pain in the ass when you realize you didn't unzip it and now you can't turn your pillowcase right side out. Been there, done that. Align the pillow pieces right sides together again and pin around the raw edges, including the open corners at the bottom. When we stitch around the perimeter of the pillow, we will start here at one end of the zipper basting stitches. Just stitch right on top of the existing stitches, sew all the way around the pillow using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you get to the other end of the basting stitches, do exactly the same thing, so right over top of them, and then backstitch to lock the stitches. Now it's time to turn the case right side out through that open zipper. Remember that part? Yeah. Use something pointy like a chopstick to gently turn out the corners. Shove the pillow insert into the case, making sure to get the corners situated. Zip up the zipper. Viola, you've just made a pillowcase, my friend. Go forth and make another, and another, and another. Fill a whole room with nothing but pillows. This was an actual dream of mine as a teenager because I was and still am a huge dork. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss my next tutorial. Leave a comment below and let me know how your project turned out. And be sure to visit whatthecraft.com for more crafty tips, tutorials, and kick-ass sewing patterns.